Hi, my name is Jeff H. Sipe, interview and negotiation coach at practiceinterviews.com. In this video, we are going to discuss the 4 components of our actions. So I have done a lot of videos on behavioral questions, including one on actions, which I'll pin up above, but what's really truly missing from every video and every article is clearly defining what we need to talk about in those actions. Not this high-level fluffy stuff. Let's really get into the weeds. And so if you see sample example answers that are 2 or 3 sentences, you've literally told me almost nothing about yourself. There is no way that I'm going to hire somebody who says, I did A, B, and C, and then they're done. It's just not enough detail. It's not enough context. And so you've really told me nothing about you. So I want you to stay tuned to the end. We'll do a sample example and we will really make sure that you clearly understand the 4 components of the actions of a behavioral answer utilizing the s.t.a.r method. If you like my content, please like. If you have any comments, please comment below. And if you like my overall content, please subscribe. Item 1, research and chatting. So essentially, every action is going to start here. So in one facet or another, you're just going to need to do research, right? You're going to need to dive into documentation. You're going to have to look at historical data, the code, etc. And you're going to chat with people. The chatting with people will help as part of your research component. That could be stakeholders, SMEs, external clients, surveying an audience, for example. And by the way, this is the action that almost everyone gets right, but they spend all their time in this initial stage and then they never deliver on the critical other components of the actions. Basically, we go from research and chatting to the results. And so we need to keep going and you need to tell me what you did. So item 2, chatting and doing. So what's happening here? Well, the conversations are ongoing. That hasn't changed. The conversations will be happening throughout, but now you're starting to get some direction and idea of where you want to go, how you want to move forward. And so again, conversations are ongoing, but then you start to do specific items. This is where I really want you to pause. And as you're writing out your examples, ask yourself, what was the first doing action I took after the research and after the chatting? What did I actually do? And then start to outline methodically all the items, all the things you completed, all the things you did, etc. And what you'll find is you likely have a lot in this doing section. It's the most often and most critical piece that's missed. Are you going to bring up every one of these items in your answer? Probably not, but you want to get them all down on paper so that when you get the question, you specifically answer the question that's being asked of you. And so you'll bring up some of the doing items, not all of them. But you really need to tell me what you did. And this happens a lot with clients. I just tell them, look, you didn't actually tell me anything that you did. And therefore, I can't really connect with you and really understand how that past performance is going to predict future performance. Item 3, testing. Okay, you've researched, you've chatted, and ultimately you've done some stuff. Now, usually we're testing it in some facet, some way, shape, or form. So that could be A/B testing, we're testing out the software, we're testing out the product to a small audience. We might just be testing our theories, what we did with internal, external stakeholders, creating a proof of concept, an MVP. But the testing component is really important because what it shows me is you've done and then you've tested, which means you know how to ship, but it also means you know that you're probably going to be shipping something imperfect. So this testing piece, while it seems a little strange and maybe it's not 100%, almost all the time this testing component will come up. Tell me how you made sure your hypothesis, your theory, how all the work you did was really validated through testing. Lastly, item 4 is the launch and presentation. Now again, some clients are getting this right. They're research and chatting and then they're going right to the presentation to show what they did. But it's really critical in 2 facets. If you launch something, I want to know how you launched it. Did you partner with the marketing team? Did you do a rollout across a global app, etc.? So I want to know the steps you took in your work to launch it, or presentation or facilitation. Just put me in the room. Did you use slides? Did you use a whiteboard? Did you present to leadership? Because what you'll find is a lot of the roles and job descriptions are going to ask you for these presentation skills. So what is going to be better than to actually add them into your actions? It's just super critical. So to really recap really quickly, item 1, research and chatting. Item 2, chatting and doing. Item 3 is testing, and item 4 is this launch/presentation, even a facilitation. Now let's jump into our sample answer. So I'm not going to pose a specific question. What I am going to do is bring the situation and task into it, just so you have a little bit of context in the actions, and then we'll drop the last steps. We won't go into those last steps. And this is an actual example that happened in my career at Google. So Sue, great question. This is when I was a technical recruiter at Google, hiring program managers for our data center team. This included data center deployments team, our capacity delivery, our supply chain team, etc. And receiving timely feedback was a real challenge, and I knew it was impacting our ability to hire top talent, specifically those with competing offers or those that were actively interviewing. And in order to validate and make this change, I needed to collect the data, build partnerships, and ultimately hope to push for change. So the first action I needed to take was I needed to research. So I utilized our internal tool, GHire, to run some reports. And I was really looking for 3 things. I wanted to figure out the low performers, the ones that took the longest time to provide feedback, the top performers, the ones that were getting it in within hours, within 24 hours, and then lastly, thematically, if there were teams that were stronger or weaker than others. So once I did this research, I instantly went and chatted with my product area lead for the group, and they were my real support person to roll issues, items up to leadership within this team. And so I scheduled a meeting, basically created a Google Slides, very simplistic deck to show the data, and I asked that person to roll this up to the VP to see if I could get in a conversation with them as well. And so that was the next step. We continued talking. The VP, the product area lead, and we really wanted to outline a strategy. And so I thought the best strategy, and we discussed this and agreed upon this, was to socialize it, to talk with the high performers, the low performers, see if we could initiate some change based on the data. And the VP agreed to really push his leadership team, the people who were directly reporting up to him, to make sure that interview feedback was coming in a timely manner. And so we tested this assumption. We went ahead, I spoke with some key leaders on both sides. I shared best practices, especially with the lower performing teams. Most of this was via email or via chat. It was very, very informal. And over a few weeks, we saw no change. So we regrouped, the 3 of us, the VP, the PA, staffing lead, and myself. And we came up with the idea of doing a fireside chat. We'd bring in the top 3 or 4 performers, and we would sit and I would ask them questions. And that's actually what we did. So we went ahead, I worked with the facilities team to get the room, to get the food, to make it a nice setting, got all the chairs and mics set up, and then I created a list of questions. It was about 30 questions. I didn't want to run out of questions, and I asked 3 people, 3 of our top interview performers, questions on best practices, what they did, strategies, etc. And ultimately the results were, okay, and we'll table the results, right? Because for length, we just don't want to get into the results, but I can tell you they were very successful. We had a great change, and I can tell you right now that this isn't the perfect example. You'll hear me say that a lot in the examples I provide. They just need to be tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, and you need to continue to work on them to get the timing right, to get everything perfect. But this kind of shows you how I would walk through those 4 steps. And really, in sum up, the way we get there is we write all of our examples down. But now we kind of have that foundational knowledge to say, well, what should I be writing down? The 4 key areas: research and chatting, chatting and doing, really focusing on the doing. What did we test and how did we test it? And then how did we launch and present it? And obviously, I just want you to be succinct, but actions, past performance predicts future performance. It's all in our actions. And now that you have kind of the framework and the bigger setting for how to roll out these actions, I promise you'll have great success. Good luck. Thanks.